Okay, you saw my notes. You saw the outline thing.
I did. Let me actually pull those notes up real quick so that I have them open here. All right, let's go ahead and talk.
Let's talk
about notes and things.
What do you think? There.
I mean, in reviewing the notes, I thought they were a nice summation of the things we had talked about.
Okay.
I don't have any strong disagreements. I just want to make sure. Let me scroll through real quick, make sure I didn't make any notes here. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what we talked about. So yes, I think that's a good start.
So
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the typical order of business, like what we would have done back in the Expanse days, is we would have talked about the 3 to 5 big moments. We would call them set pieces, but it's just big moments, right?
Mm-hmm. The things we're building towards.
The things that you're building towards, and also things that change the context for everything that follow, right? The pivot moments. In a shorter book like this, do we still want to aim for 5? I guess is
when I was doing the Black Sun's Daughter books, which are closer to this length, I would try to have something interesting that happened, 2 or 3 chapters in that really got things going. Try to have thing change or big happen about a quarter of the way through, about halfway through, and then as you get towards the end, stuff starts coming faster. So
that sounds like 5 things.
So I'm thinking 5 seems about right, but with not a lot of fat in between them.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're doing 5 big moments in a 90,000 word book, you're moving pretty fast.
I mean, the idea of this one is
that's 15,000 of your 90,000 words are climax chapters,
or
that's a lot,
or game changers of some sort. Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, just do we want to stick with the 3,000 word chapter? We're just going to stick with that?
That's my default. If there's a reason to change that, I'm open to talking about it.
No, I don't have an argument for changing it. I just wanted to double check. This is a completely new project. I mean, obviously the Expanse was written in that hyper fast 3,000 word chapter pace. I'm sure that this book would benefit from that pace too. But I just wanted to, because Captives War, the other series we're working on, Captives War is not. I mean, some of the chapters are 3,000 words, and some of them are decidedly not 3,000 words.
There's more flexibility in that one. But I feel like the pace in the Captives War is also something that shifts more because of the kind of project it is. With this one, I mean, I think Propulsive is still pretty good for the kind of horror thriller that we're talking about. The counter example on that one is if you wanted to go with the more Lovecraftian voice, you can go longer with that because it's that kind of slower pace, that slower voice, I think pairs well with 5,000 or 6,000 word chapter. But my default is still 3,000.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with doing the 3,000 word chapters. I just wanted to, it feels like something we should agree on before we start. The other thing is, I had a thought. I think it was as I was falling asleep the other day, probably when I was napping through an important meeting with Expanding Universe. But I had a thought as I was falling asleep that, so we've been talked a little bit about making the cosmology messier, right? So rather than the toppling domino version of the cosmology and Cthulhu moving through it, more the sort of Cthulhu's an expanding balloon and the edges of him brush up against lots of things as he fills up.
Right.
I also had a thought that maybe it would be good to make the timeline a little messier, that by the time Shadow Jody shows up in our reality, unknown to her, things have already started to happen here. Like she's not the first, she's not the Storm Raven. She's not the first thing that happens in our reality.
Okay.
She She hopes that she is. She's trying to get here before we're too fucked up. And the reason for that, there's a specific reason I think that, and that is that I think it's more interesting and allows for more horror possibilities if evil tech billionaire has already begun work on something. He's ahead of the game. He's ahead of the curve, right? By the time she gets there, she's like, hey, we have to stop this thing from happening. And then as we move through it, we realize, oh shit, a bunch of it has already happened. We're behind. We're playing from behind. And the reason for all of that's justification my brain came up with later after I woke up. But the scene that happened in my head as I was falling asleep is Jodie and we don't have to use this scene. I'm not pitching this literal scene. I'm pitching the feel of this scene, that Jodie is in a basement looking, you know the scene from Inglourious Bastards where the family's in the basement and they're looking up through the floorboards and
oh no, I'm
Hans Landa is up there.
I like everyone else. I'm scarred by that scene. Yes.
Okay. It's that scene where it's like you're looking up through the floorboards and there's something up there moving around and it's hunting you. It's looking for you, right? But it's literally a monster. And what I was thinking is like, well, okay, we don't have literal monsters in this, but why can't we? Could we have literal monsters in this?
Okay.
Because if tech billionaire is already doing weird shit, if he's already doing experiments based on this information he's getting through his connection to Cthulhu, can he have made some stuff?
Absolutely.
That is,
especially
literally a monster.
Especially if what we're talking about is, and this is going back to the thing from last week about the stem cell research and the little the
brain that starts growing an eye.
The brain that starts growing eyes. If what we're playing with is what are the physical requirements of subjective experience? What are the forms that we can create that include consciousness the way that we have consciousness? And what can you do that builds on those? What can you do that has a consciousness close enough to ours that it can talk to us and different enough from ours that it can tell us stuff we don't know, or it can do things that we can't do, or there's a lot of opportunity there for making monsters out of the local clay. There's also the possibility, we established with Shadow Jodie that things can cross over into our place. Otherwise she wouldn't be here. So whatever has gone wrong in other places, we can have, we've got Shadow Jodie here trying to stop it. We can have dark forces invading, trying to promote it. We can have some question whether Shadow Jodie is one of those.
That's an interesting version of this, because in the version my brain was trying to create to justify this was tech billionaire tech billionaire is the guy who's like doing stuff with stem cells and makes a brain and it starts to grow eyes, and instead of going, oh, this is really unethical, I could stop, he goes, I wonder what happens if I just keep letting it go. Oh, I wonder what happens, and then something grows in that test tube that is awful, and yeah. So that was the version that was in my head. The version you're pitching, I think, which is interesting, is once Cthulhu turns your universe into a demon universe, it's full of demons, and some of those slip across, right?
Which is the more Clive Barker vibe, right? Because we have that. Yeah. If we're using those guys as our touchstones, the tech billionaire lets the thing grow in the lab is the Dean Koontz version. Yeah. The demons coming over is the Clive Barker version, and both of those can be true. We want to be careful we don't load it up with too many weirds, because it starts feeling like candy shop. But
but the thing you get, the benefit you get from your version, is that Shadow Jodie's on the run.
Well, and
if she comes over knowing that she's hunted, she's already hunted. She's hunted by the things that followed her through the opening between the universes, right?
And
or
we
between
don't
the
have
realities.
to change. We don't have to add any more rules to the universe.
No.
By Shadow Jody showing up, we've already established that Shadow Jody can show up.
Right. And
So-
if she comes over aware that there is a ticking clock on her.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is if she comes over aware that there's this ticking clock of the demons have followed me over and they're going to eat me to stop me from doing what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
If she starts out believing that is her ticking clock, then you can have that nice pivot moment where she realizes, oh, I'm an infection vector too.
So there's a couple of them we get. We get the one where it's like, oh, they're going to try to stop me. They're here to try to stop me, and then we discover, oh no, actually they're ahead. I'm behind. They're not even paying attention to me at this point. They're just moving
Right.
ahead to destroy the universe that I'm in, and fuck me.
Right.
And then we get the, oh, I am one too. Oh,
Yeah, I'm part of the problem.
I'm part of the problem. So there's a couple of things I think we
I think those are nice. I think those are nice pivot moments. I think those are nice surprises where it's. I like when somebody thinks that there is a problem and is working very hard to solve that problem, and then the problem doesn't go away; it's still there. But they realize, oh wait, no, that was not the actual big problem, and I still have that problem. But there's this other problem that's way worse than that problem, right?
it's like, oh my god,
it's-
somebody has stolen this very expensive necklace. Oh, the ship's going down.
Yeah, or it is. Oh no, this horrible greedy family is in King's Landing is trying to take the throne. Oh wait, there's ice zombies, undead ice zombies coming down from the north. Yeah, so suddenly this fight over who gets to be king
Yeah,
seems way less important. I mean,
on the other
it's a
hand-
classic.
Yeah.
It's a classic strategy,
Well,
right?
and it
I mean,
has
that
the
was-
advantage of like increasing the stakes. I mean, that's the Writers Workshop term for that. So I think that's not bad, and I think it also having other things besides Shadow Jody come across gives us the opportunity for some fairly baroque, creepy, weird.
Well, so part of what is sort of banging around in my head now that you've sort of pitched that idea is, we were talking about Earthsea, and the horror element of Earthsea is that get through the entire 3-book series. I didn't love Tehanu, so I'm going to stick with the 3 books. Through the entire 3-book series, Ged is always pursued by his own shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The monster he unleashes in the first third of the first book when he's, trying to cast a spell as a fledgling wizard. And that thing hunts him for the entire 3 books. And he's always just ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I like that sort of like that no matter what Shadow Jody is doing in the back of the reader's mind, they're waiting for the demon to show up. And we have it appear a couple of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
To show that it's a threat, to show that it is in fact hunting her. So that when there's moments where they're, Shadow Jody and regular Jody and the boyfriend are all in a Motel 6 talking about their plan for the next day and what they're going to do, the reader's going, I wonder if the demon's coming through the window. I wonder if the demon's right outside the door, right? You have that sense of constant tension. I like that.
And sometimes
I think I like your version better. I think we should do your version.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. I mean, not that I don't love the idea of tech billionaire growing brains with eyes on them, but that can also be going on in the background.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, that's a good piece of ick, but I think the driver should be other shadow things like Shadow Jody.
Yeah. Yeah. How far is it? Just looking at your notes again, I had this thought when I was reading them the first time. How far into Barker sensuality do we want to lean? Is that even an element of his work that we want to include in this? Because I love that in his work, but I'm trying to figure out where it.
So the place that belongs in this project is the pleasure that the first wave of Cthulhu brings.
Oh, right.
The place
the first hit of the drug.
The first hit of the drug, the first opening of the mind, the first sense of the greater universe has to be really fun.
Right.
So that's kind of where I see that slotting into this, especially if we're with the whole kind of.
Is that just our characters, or is that global?
Well, I think
is there sort of a global low-level euphoria that happens?
I think the when you say that, I think it starts off with our characters, and I think the third act, when things start escalating and the world starts turning to shit, I think the first sign that it's really gotten out of control is that kind of universal euphoria.
Let me make a counter argument.
Hit me.
Because the thing that was sort of popping into my head as you were talking about that is showing that as a barometer. Like in the first part of the book, with this, when it is revealed what is happening, and that this sort of intellectual monster creep is going to start happening.
Mm-hmm.
Things that can be happening in the world. And one of that just show that sort of the global access to reasoning and information is like just a little bit of rise in the tide, a little bit of rise in the pool, right? And initially, all of it could seem good, right? Because if everybody can see past their own bullshit, the first thing that happens is a whole lot of wars just stop, right? Like a whole bunch of people go, why are we fighting over this? This is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
this is some kind of weird vestigial status fight we're having over things that don't actually apply. And
yeah, we got this old man who wants to be immortal, and so he picked a war for no reason. We're just not going to do what he says anymore.
No,
he seems like a fuck up, right?
Yeah.
So it's that, what it is the first time you take a drug, there's no downside. You feel great. You have this amazing sensation, this amazing feeling. And you're like, this is awesome. And I don't know why I haven't been doing this before this, right? Mm-hmm. It's only later that the drug cycle starts to have negative side effects, right?
Right.
But that first hit is awesome.
And your brain has not started trying to counter it beforehand. There are no triggers for that. Yeah.
So you get the pure high.
Yeah.
And you could have, the world seeming like a whole bunch of good things happen all at once. A couple of wars just stop because the leaders call each other on the phone and go, hey, maybe we should stop shooting at each other. This is kind of a waste for both of us. And, that sort of thing, just sort of a low-level global version of that early on, because while everyone in our world looks at it and goes, look at this amazing thing that's happening.
We're entering a new golden age.
Shadow Jody can be the one going, this is I'm late to this. I'm late because this is the first symptom of the disease.
Yeah, this is the first part of the fever. What comes next is worse.
This is the euphoria that tells you that the tumor is growing, right?
Yep.
So I like that. Then that can obviously escalate, like what you're talking about. By the time you get the last of the book, you can have like big escalations of that show the downside. Like then we start to see, oh wait, this isn't all just yummy, delicious high. There is a crash the next day, and there is this horrible craving, and all the awful side effects start showing up, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and the loss of identity, the loss of humanity, which is stuff we touched on at the end of The Expanse too. And I think this is drawing from some of that same well. Because we're talking about what happens when consciousness, when mind, when subjective experience winds up getting weirder and weirder and less connected to kind of consensus reality and more and more. There's an image that I have for a different project that I haven't done yet of somebody who is developing brain tumors so that they can think thoughts you could not think without them. Without that tissue there, the thought is not physically possible. So it's that kind of
that's very Cronenberg.
And we can certainly use it here. I don't have the other thing going, so the
other thing too is you say in the Lynch section of your little document here, the exercise of will versus determinism of flesh. I would say that is also heavily a Cronenberg idea. That Cronenberg, one of the elements of Cronenberg's body horror is that by disfigurement of the flesh, by violation of the flesh, you open access to new ideas, to new powers, to new abilities, to new thoughts, right? That's very Cronenberg. So it feels like that's sort of a touchstone between those two, the Lynch Cronenberg sort of axis is this determinism of flesh. And the reason that I'm mentioning it is because the thing that Jody knows, so there's this idea, there's this very intellectual idea that if only humans could get past their flesh and engage with the pure intellectualism that humans are capable of, then wouldn't things just be better? Right? Like that would just be better. Like if we didn't have all these, all the problems of flesh. And the thing that Jody knows, having been a drug addict and then gotten clean, is that it is incredibly important to pay attention to your body, to pay attention to the flesh. That when we try to ignore the flesh, that's when we get ourselves in trouble. When we get ourselves in those traps, right?
Right.
That's
interesting.
Ignoring that I feel sad for too long suddenly makes drugs seem like a really good idea.
Well,
whereas if the first time I feel sad, I just go, I feel sad, I should engage with that. I should suss out the source of that sadness and work with it. Then I never get to the point where shooting up some heroin is the only solution.
And she also understands that to go all Borges here, the division between the line between your body and your mind is difficult, if not impossible, to draw. You are an embodied intelligence. And a lot of what we're doing here is playing specifically with embodied intelligence and embodied experience. Yep. So
if that's the drug that Cthulhu offers, if Cthulhu is saying like, look, I can give you all this awesome intellectual stuff, all I'm asking for in return is your body.
Well, and
that's
and
interesting.
Look, all I need to do is just change you a little bit. Oh, look, all I need to do is change you a little bit more. Oh, look, all I need to do is change you a little bit more. Oh, look, all I need to do is just connect you guys with this link. And then all of a sudden you don't. And and now you're a whole different kind of mind. And look at this new different kind of mind you are. And look at what happens when I smear you up across this wall and you're this long, thin mind. And, that's a whole different thing. And look what else we can do. And and if what Cthulhu's do is turning you into food. Yes. And then look what happens when I just subsume you into myself. And then you're just part, and then and then I'm even bigger. Oh, it's great.
Right.
Yeah, no, that I think that's the. And in this version, because and again, we're never going to say this shit out loud. This is the underpinning. Yeah. But Cthulhu in this one, we talk about Cthulhu. What we mean is appetite. What we mean is want.
Well, when I say Cthulhu, what I mean is eldritch unknowable horror.
And eldritch unknowable horror from beyond in this context is the literalized metaphor of appetite.
Yes.
Which is again linking us right back to Barker. So I think we're on track.
I also. Another thought I had, this was a few days ago, it just popped into my head, but now this has made me think about it, is Cthulhu is not small enough to attack one planet. Cthulhu is a universal problem.
Right.
Or at least a reality, sort of our amber sort of layers of reality kind of thing. Yeah. He's a reality level problem. Right. So it feels like at some point somebody would say, if there's another intelligent life in this universe, are they having this same problem right now?
I think somewhere in the back half of the story, tech billionaire has a first contact moment where he's aware of.
We could certainly do it that way. I mean, it could be a question we never answer, or it could be a question that is answered like that. Like, I think even just raising the question is interesting. But if there's a place,
but I think if what Cthulhu is doing is taking the matter and energy of this universe and seeing how the matter and energy of this particular universe supports consciousness and just changing everything everywhere in ways that just make it as conscious as it can possibly be. They give it as much of that sensorium as it can have, as much of that internal life as it can have, because that's that's ripening the grapes, right?
It also that's interesting because it also and that's an interesting metaphor, like a bunch of grapes, right? You're just ripening this bunch of grapes. If what Shadow Jody is hoping to do is not fight Cthulhu, not defeat Cthulhu. Cthulhu is not a thing you can defeat. It's just make that one grape, the grape she lives on, just make that one unappetizing. Make that the one that when you pick the bunch of grapes, you throw that one away.
So it can go and be itself. It can. It's the one that.
And if it's. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to. If it's a reality wide problem, then I understand why that would work. Because Cthulhu isn't here to eat the earth. Because if Cthulhu is here to eat the earth, then I don't think you can fight him.
Right.
Right. It's too big of a problem and too small of a set of weapons to fight back with.
Right.
But if Cthulhu is here to eat every conscious being in our reality, Earth is Earth is one grape on a cluster of tens of thousands of grapes. And if you can just make that one unappetizing,
just make
then
this
he eats
one,
everything else, but you're okay. Right?
Yeah. All of that will be blasted and changed to, but it'll be elsewhere.
So there's a wonderful existential horror in that too, though, that the realization that even if this works, what we are doing is we are creating a world that is unaffected, but the rest of our universe will be. Everything else will be eaten by Cthulhu except for us. What does that change about how we see the universe and our place in it?
I mean, looking at the stars and thinking, we can't save them. We can't. All of that.
And not only that, but we don't ever want to go there.
Yeah.
Like it's committing to staying in this one little.
Whatever that was, whatever glories were out there, whatever mysteries were out there,
it's all gone now.
It's all gone.
Unless there is Shadow Barglarg who goes and finds his other Barglarg and says, "We must stop tech billionaire Barglarg from destroying our world." So that could be Shadow Jody's argument. Like, it happened here, it can happen. You don't know what's happening at those places.
There's always hope. Every place that I am here is a sign that there is hope there. But there's only hope, and it's not ours to fix. All we can fix is here.
Yeah, something happened, right? After watching all of Rick and Morty, all of the aliens now have Rick and Morty alien name.
Yeah, but it's.
Like Shrimpy Pibbles.
You are more caught up on your Rick and Morty than I am. I am behind on my Rick and Morty.
Okay.
So the other thing is, do you have a sense what the end of this book is yet?
Well, we have two endings.
We have two endings.
And I feel like over the course of plotting out and writing the rest of the book, the ending that the book really wants will become clear.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I mean, don't you think? Because the up to probably the 90% point, the books will look exactly the same. And then there's going to be this moment in that last little chunk. I said I made 10% up. I pulled that out of my ass. But there's in this last little chunk, there's going to be this moment where it is the fork, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it is we fail, so we're going to go to the next. Our Jody becomes Shadow Jody.
We start over
and we try it again.
Book one, or in the
or the other version is this: yay, we won, but now we live in a demon-infested universe, and we can never look at the stars the same way again because now we think we know what's out there, and it's this that we narrowly avoided. And I think both of those are the thing I like about that second ending is it is also tragic.
Yeah.
It's not the happy, we won, Yay. The adventuring party defeated the dragon. No, it's
we have
made ourselves the rotten grape on the bunch, so Cthulhu threw us away.
We have saved what could be saved, and we're horribly disfigured in a compromised universe. We're in a universe of scars now, but at least we're still us.
And is he always going to be pushing? Like, is there always going to be this gentle pressure? You know, we solved this version of it.
Okay.
But is there?
Well, and that's if we're talking about if we're talking sideways, if we're talking slant about living with compulsion.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. Jody's been off of heroin for 5 years, and every day she gets up and she looks in the mirror and she says, "I'm not going to take heroin today."
Right. And
right. I mean, that's
and because
that is
there.
Living with addiction,
or any compulsion. I mean, if you got whether it's that or whether it's I'm not going to give into the intrusive thoughts today. I'm not going to go into this pattern today. I'm not going to cut today. Whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going over to horrible, destructive ex-boyfriend's house when he texts me today.
Right.
Definitely not doing that because he's bad for my life. Yeah.
And the idea of living in, and the idea I'll admit I was leaning pretty hard towards Shadow Jody, or our Jody becoming the next Shadow Jody, because that felt more authentic to me than we killed the dragon. But I have saved this remnant of my life, and yes, many other things are destroyed and ruined, and yes, the things I have done are part of that, and yes, the danger is always with me, and that's the win. That kind of appeals to me too.
That is absolutely the addiction story.
And if that's what we're doing, then that's what we're doing, right? I mean, that's a pretty good. That's an emotionally solid ending. It fits with what we're doing.
I like because as an addiction metaphor, fleeing to a new life is less compelling than I'm hanging on to the scraps of this life, and I'm jealously protecting the little that I've got left.
And I'm gonna find the fucking beauty in what remains.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find the parts of this that are still beautiful.
Yeah.
We do that. I think we said something. Then I'm feeling better. So I'm okay. I'm changing my mind. I was going for the other. Now I'm going for this.
Yeah, that's I figured this happened much sooner than I expected, but I figured something would tell us which one was the right one. That something would come along and make a added detail that made one or the other clearly correct. And this little detail of
the rest of the universe is eaten. That little
the rest
detail.
Of the universe is eaten. Yeah.
Poison stars.
Well, I mean, and it was a question I was thinking about. Is like, is this happening everywhere? Is this happening all across the universe? Is the Barg Blarg civilization undergoing this exact same thing right now? And
what does that do?
What does it look like there? Because obviously I'm space opera guy, so I'm thinking like, where is the Barg Blarg invasion fleet on its way with their new technology they've invented of their new hyperdrive that Cthulhu helped them invent to go, conquer the universe.
Go take over the monkeys.
Yeah.
The monkeys of Earth. We shall. Oh no, we're going to be eaten by Cthulhu instead.
Well, given this as sort of the basic idea, is it possible to put together a first draft 5 moments level outline, 5-act level outline?
We probably can't get it right, but sure. I mean, if you're not worried about getting it right.
You're never worried about getting it right at this phase.
So
if you're listening right now, you never worry about getting it right at this phase. You're just trying to get something.
Everything we're doing is wrong.
Get something on paper, and that thing will tell you what you did right and what you did wrong, and then you revise from there. So this first 5-act wrong version
is I'm just going to put down the things that we've talked about. in kind of the big grand scheme of things. And we'll see if they have an order to them. We've got Shadow Jody shows up. That's our initial thing. We've got global euphoria, right?
Yeah, and that could be. I like that happening after Shadow Jody gets here, so Shadow Jody can see it and go, "Oh shit, I'm late."
Absolutely. No, I think that's my sense for that one is that happens around chapter 9. It's about a third of the way through, where we've established what's going on. We've started to see what it is. We've had the argument for what Shadow Jody is here to do, and then we see the things like, oh no, that's not going to work at all. So we set up the quest for the thing, and then we can immediately say, oh no, it's too late. Too late for that.
Right.
That's not going to work. We've got.
Well, I don't know that. And this is too much detail. We're getting in the weeds here, but I don't know that it's the reaction is this isn't going to work. I think the reaction is more we have way less time than I thought.
Yeah. Okay. We need a new plan.
I was hoping to hit the disease off before it started. You're already coughing. Yeah. You've already got it.
We're way behind. Yeah. The fact that this is happening means the disease is much worse than I thought, and the plan I had to stop it is not going to work. We have to find plan B.
Yeah. It's that moment when you realize you're not looking for a vaccine, you're looking for a cure.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down. Yeah, the thing we don't have is a lot of incident yet. I mean, I don't know what the
No, that's what I'm specifically talking about is our big incident moments.
Yeah.
Set pieces in the Expanse parlance, in the parlance of our times.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I have those yet.
Well, so I know what some of them can be. The question is, where do they fit in the story, and are there better ones?
Kick them out. Let's get a list and look at them.
I want at least one early scene of Shadow Jody being hunted by the demon, right?
Right.
Some version of my person hiding in the cellar while the demon walks around on the floorboards above that moment, right? Which is more of a pure horror moment than the sort of Lovecraftian.
Yeah, and this is not intellectual, a non-intellectual, a well-embodied horror moment.
Yeah, this is if that thing catches me, it will pull me apart with its hands.
Right.
I want one of those. There's 3 moments that Adam Jensen needs to have.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to have a lot more moments, but there's 3 definite.
The 3 we need specifically.
He goes after Jody and Shadow Jody and almost kills them. He's hunting them. Something happens in that moment that changes his perspective on what they are and what they're doing. Followed by the moment he sees Evil Tech Billionaire doing something and confronts him and says, "What the fuck, dude? You almost had me kill these 2 ladies, and now I see you doing this. What the hell is going on?" And then flips. And then the third moment is the one where he shows up. They're all getting ready. They're shooting at him, and he's hiding behind the wall. And he's going, "Stop shooting! I'm coming to help you." Right? Like that. Not that literal moment, but the moment where he comes back and says, "I'm here to help."
The one where he has changed sides.
Yeah, the "come with me if you want to live" moment.
Yep.
Now, obviously, he needs a lot more moments than that, but those he needs those 3, right?
Yeah.
So actually, that's an interesting way to attack this. We've never done that before. So just looking at the character list, the character list isn't in here; it's in the other document. Just looking at the character list, what is their point in the story? Oh, here's a character list right here. Okay, so billionaire guy. What scenes do we have to have with billionaire guy? Obviously, we need the scene with him and Adam Jensen where he says these ladies are trying to steal vital technology from me.
We need to have
because he has to pitch it as corporate espionage or something, right? Yeah.
We also need to have the one. We have to have the one where he feels the rush. We have to have him feeling the rush,
which means he's a point of view character.
Yes. No, he has to be a point of view character, at least for that.
Because there's a version of this where we only see him in relation to Adam Jensen.
Yeah, no. But he's the guy who is built to... He's the addict that doesn't make it. He's the one who fully engages with it and then has no interest in getting clean.
This raises another question, though.
Okay.
This is an important question. If we are doing tight third, are we doing single point of view for each chapter? The reason I ask that is if we only have 27 chapters, we need to be very careful about who we give chapters to.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Because we only have to, because the number of chapters is going to be a rapidly diminishing resource in this context.
Yep, that is true. I am leaning towards not breaking the close third by chapter break.
There's things we can do here, right?
Right.
Whenever we have pairs, we can, then we can divide the chapters up between them and still get all the story for them.
Right.
Right. If Adam Jensen and Tech Billionaire are a pair, at least for some of the story, then we can have one of the chapters be from Tech Billionaire, the other chapter be from Jensen, and still get multiple chapters in their story without having to give Tech Billionaire too many chapters.
Well, and we also have I don't think Tech Billionaire needs to be. I think he is a relatively minor character. He's just someone whose eyes we need to see through now and again.
We need to, okay.
And anytime we have like characters interacting, I think we can intercut between them. So like the fight when our fixer shows up to deal with Jody and Shadow Jody, I think we can see that interaction from both sides as the scene requires it.
Within the chapter.
Within the chapter.
Okay. Yeah, so we are going to be jumping POV inside of chapters.
I think we're going to be jumping POV inside of chapters. At this length, okay. I think we have to.
And I'm fine with that. I feel like it's something we should know ahead of time because it will have an impact on who we're going to give chapters to, right?
But going back to Evil Billionaire, we have Evil Billionaire gets high.
Now, Evil Billionaire has to have been getting high.
Yes.
Because Evil Billionaire is ahead of the game.
But we have to...
Evil Billionaire is into the early stages of his drug use at this point.
And the thing of getting high can be a flashback. It can be him reminiscing on when it happened. It's just something that we need to have there for the reader to imagine so they can experience it through him. He's that guy. So we need to have that. We probably need to have...
Well, let's drill down on that point really quickly.
Okay.
So Evil Billionaire has two things that are important about his story.
Okay.
One, he is an early vector for the infection.
Absolutely.
He's using his access to that to give himself huge advantages in innovation and all that stuff. And two, there's something that he wants to introduce to the entire world that turns them all into what he is. Right. And he wants to share. He wants to share. He wants to create the internet 4.0 and now everybody can share emotions across the internet, right? That kind of thing, whatever it is. If that's what he's doing, is this a relic story?
Hold forth. What do you mean?
Is there an object, and in this case it can be a metaphorical object. It could be a computer program. It could be a page filled with math. It could be a physical object. It can be an imp, right? You know, if we're having demons come through the other dimension, does he have a homunculus in a jar? Does he have an imp? You know, I'm throwing out all of the sort of the trope versions of this, but in a relic story, so he has the relic, and periodically he goes and communes with the relic. And in doing so, he feels this rush of insight and good ideas and all of that stuff. And what he is trying to do is he's trying to replicate the relic to give everyone access to it, right? That's what I mean by, is it a relic story? Yeah. Does he have the holy object that he goes and communes with? Because what you can do then, if it's a relic story, which I'm kind of now I'm kind of getting excited about that, is if he goes in and he communes with the object, that's when you tell the first hit story, right? The first time he came in contact with whatever the relic is and the feelings that it brought into him and the wealth generation that caused, because suddenly now all of his ideas were good, and you know, he was first to market with all this stuff, and he went from being a millionaire to a billionaire in a radically short period of time because he's had all these sudden good ideas, and that's his needle, right? The relic is his needle. Like periodically he gets jumpy and he's got to go in the secret vault that nobody has access to and touch the relic and get flooded with feelings of euphoria and power and then go back out and make a lot of decisions, right? If that's what we're doing, I think that fits with what you're talking about, getting that the story of his first time. And what the relic is in this case, because Cthulhu is not, it's at the end of the infection that things are able physically transferring across the planes.
Well, it can't be too close to the end because we've got Shadow Jody at the beginning.
No. I'm saying it was the end of Shadow Jody's universe.
Right. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
So if the infection starts with something non-physical,
euphoria,
and that
starts with thoughts.
The thing that I am, here's the picture I got in my head. You've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, right?
I have.
Or watching Kat play it?
No, she has insisted. I'm in Act 2.
Okay.
Playing the Dark Urge.
Have you found the book that you need the gem to open?
I have not.
Okay. Well, there's a scene in there where you open this book that's filled with dark knowledge that things man was not meant to know.
As one does.
And if you don't have it by Act 2, then you missed it. But anyway.
Next playthrough.
It's fine. There's so much stuff in that game you're going to miss things. But there's a scene where they open the book and it's a cut scene and there's all this arcane runes and stuff on the pages and they sort of are flashing and glowing and and when I was just talking about this just now, like I pictured if the relic is just a piece of 3-ring binder notebook paper with the holes torn because he ripped it out, covered in equations, covered in math. But every time he looks at it, like he was doing math for something else, and he just suddenly had this insight, and he has this page covered in math equations, and every time he looks at it, like he sees new elements of it, he sees new
implications.
Explains so much about the universe, and so his relic, this holy object that drives his empire and his innovation and all this stuff, is just this one sheet of notebook paper on a table in a vault at the top of his tower, right?
Mm-hmm.
That every now and then he just has to go look at it again, and here's that to me is so creepy. And I don't know why that's so creepy to me.
Here's what that does when you put it in my head. It almost doesn't matter what he was writing. It almost doesn't matter what the equations were, because it's all connected. It's all, you can start any place in the story because everything is connected. And this is the one, this was his moment of inspiration. This was his and the more he looks at it, the more he sees into it. Not because it's changing, but because he is.
Because he is. That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And if they get...
And there's just something so creepy about that being the thing. It's not like Cthulhu didn't send like a stone tablet with Eldritch writing on it through the gateway. He didn't. It's nothing that. It's so mundane. It's just a piece of college rule notepaper with a bunch of equations scribbled on it, and
how they connect. It's just
and how they connect. And it is his, and that's his needle. He has to go in there and he has to shoot up with that thing every now and then.
Because every time he does, he gets a little more. And the insights are always awesome, but the hunger afterwards. But the world outside of that space is a little darker every time. It's just a little less cool because he's had this experience. He's had this tremendous transforming experience, and then he's not having that transforming experience. He's chopping wood and carrying water, and he wants the fucking enlightenment back.
I just have this mental image of this incredibly high-tech, complex vault door that, like, you got to enter a code, you got to do a retinal scan, you got to put your fingerprints on it, like, that kind of like super high-tech door, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you open it and you go in and there's a little airlock and there's another, and you close that door behind you and there's another little vault door that you got to do. So it's like so incredibly secured. And like, if you make it past the first door and aren't able to make it past the second door, the airlock kills you. Like it's got lethal stuff in it, right? To stop you. And then you open the second door and you go in, and all that's on the other side is a little 10 by 10 room with a card table and a folding chair and a piece of paper laying on the table. And that's all that's in there. like so mundane. Like it's the card table that he was sitting at when he wrote the equations the first time, and the chair he was sitting on, and the piece of paper he wrote on, and
he goes back there because he wants that moment back, and he can never quite get it. Back. He can never quite get it.
Yeah, if you spike up with heroin, you never get that first spike,
right?
And you're always chasing it. That's what chasing the dragon is, right? Yep.
Okay. So we have the one of him getting high. We have to have that one. Yeah. What other ones do we have to? What other scenes? I mean, I don't know what other scenes we have to have with him.
Okay,
that's
so
we
have to have we have to have him explaining to Adam Jensen the threat that Shadow Jody presents, but it's the lie, right? It's the story about what she represents that will make Adam Jensen go after her, right? And by the way, for anyone listening, I know Adam Jensen is a character in a video game. He was played by a friend of mine, so I'm very familiar with that.
By Adam
I'm
Jensen,
using that as a shorthand in the same way that we use Cthulhu as a shorthand. Yeah, that is not going to actually be the character.
This is going to be the similar to, but legally distinct from.
Yeah, I mean, by the time we get to the point of actually designing that character, it could be gender, orientation, skin color, all of those things are up for grabs. It's not going to be a white dude with mirror shades.
And nor is it going to be doing any of the things that he did, or it's
just making that little caveat. We use these, Daniel and I use these things as shorthands.
You may have noticed.
Yeah.
Okay, what scenes does, I mean, we keep talking about everybody but Jody. You notice that?
Well, I think we put a lot of thought into Jody early on, and I think what we need to do is we need to round out the rest of the cast of characters, because Jody's the one that feels the most clear in my head already. So I don't feel the need to keep clarifying her. Okay. I guess right now.
Do you have any scenes that we need to have for Jody, or should we move on to like shitty boyfriend or parents or?
Well, let's finish. Let's not get distracted. Okay. Let's finish Billionaire Guys. So we need getting high. We need.
Sicking AJ on them.
Sicking AJ on our guys, and I think we need at least one more toward the end. Because I think what would be interesting is if Tech Billionaire has what addicts call a moment of clarity.
Okay.
Right? That moment where he realizes what he is doing, what he's done, what's happening to him, and takes the next hit anyway. Right? Because having talked to people who had addiction problems, in AA they talk about the moment of clarity as like that's the beginning of you getting clean. And my friends who have been addicts in the past, people I know have been addicts, they say you have lots of moments of clarity, and you just blow right past them to the next shot. Right? You'll be laying in your bed, looking up at your ceiling, and going, "I have completely fucked up my life. Everything I cared about is gone. I have no money. I have no loved ones. I live in this shitty 1-bedroom apartment filled with filth and cockroaches, and it's all because I'm taking heroin. Oh wait, I have some heroin. I'm going to go take it right now." So just because you have a moment of clarity doesn't mean you do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah, because to get clean, you have to have the moment of clarity and then decide to take action. You have to make a choice to do something about it, right?
Right.
It has to be both of those things. So I think I really want to see that moment towards the end when things are really going to shit and the scale and scope of the problem is becoming clear, and Shadow Jody and Jody are making progress, and he feels the ticking clock. He feels time winding down on him, and he gets up and he goes and he takes another hit anyway. Right. Mm-hmm. I want that moment. There's something about that moment that I like, because he's the antithesis to our antithesis to our Jody, right?
Right.
He's the one who can't get off his high.
She's the one who has a life after this. He's the one who doesn't.
Yeah. So at least those moments, and obviously there can be other moments peppered through, but at least those for me.
Those are good.
AJ is very simple. AJ is super simple. AJ gets the job. He goes and tries to do the job. He sees that something is happening that Tech Billionaire isn't being totally forthcoming on, has a moment of clarity with Tech Billionaire where he sees him doing some crazy shit and goes, "Oh, wait, this is really fucked up. You're really fucked up. I'm out. I gotta go.
Well,
and then
I wonder.
And then we see him show up with Jodie's.
Yeah. There's a shape of that story where Tech Billionaire opens the gates for AJ, where AJ's consciousness is expanded and he is shown the beauty of the thing, and his response is, "Oh, this is you're no," and we see him and we think as an audience, right, that AJ has been seduced.
Right.
And then AJ shows up and says, "Do you know what he's fucking doing? This shit's bad. This is crazy shit. His brain is not right. you can't be around that shit."
It would be nice, and I don't want to dip into the Marcus well too deeply, but it would be nice if there was something in AJ's life that explains why he is not seduced.
Yes.
And it can't just be that he's too manly to be seduced.
No.
Right?
No, but it can be. Let's put a pin in that. I think there needs to be. So I'm going to put that in. AJ's inoculation.
Yeah.
Backstory.
Yeah.
And
toward the end, I really want the moment with Jodie and Tech Billionaire where Jodie says, "You don't think I recognize a fucking addict when I see one?" I still want that. So they have to be in the same room at some point.
Yep.
I think Professor Farfignugan is a front third character who sort of disappears.
I think he can probably be somebody who dies to show that the stakes are high.
Yeah.
He has that vibe.
He has that red shirt air about him.
Yeah. Professor F dies to show.
But before he dies,
the stakes are high.
He is part of the confusion with Shadow Jodie and Jodie. Right. Professor Farfignugan is part of that confusion. And one of the early clues we get is the recognition that Professor Farfignugan is part of what Evil Tech Billionaire is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives them some information to move forward with, right? He becomes part of the clue chain, I think.
Right. And Shadow Jodie's going to know a version of all of this. She's going to know what happened in the last thing, but she's also going to know, like, in the last universe, the light for Go was blue instead of green. There's going to be that discontinuity.
Well, I mean, the big disconnect is that Jodie was a lead in Professor Farfignugan's team and developing this stuff.
And here she's our Jodie.
And she's out, and here she's ex-addict Jodie, and someone else has Jodie's job.
Right.
And the guy she was dating is married to somebody else. We don't need to do the blue-green headlight stoplight so much. We can do all of. I think Shadow Jodie brings so many changes with her when she comes through that we can dig into all of that. I think that's the juicy stuff. And I knew you were using that as a metaphor, but I'm just over-explaining.
Well, I thank you for over-explaining.
Well, there's other people listening.
Sometimes you need to over-explain to me too. I'm cranky today, so.
Well, I'm actually in the course of this, just as a note out to the people listening. I'm tending to be over-explaining because I know Daniel and I have a shorthand that would be indecipherable to people who are not us. So I'm trying to be over-explaining.
I'm thinking we're pretty hard to follow.
It's not because Daniel's dumb and he doesn't get it. It's because I'm being over-explaining.
And sometimes I'm a little dumb. It's okay.
We had two different characters here. Which one are you thinking of? Because we had guy that Shadow Jodie used to date who is now married in our universe and doesn't understand what's going on. And then didn't we have the biotech researcher who was... last time we talked about her.
I'm not sure either of these guys are point of view characters. No, I'm not.
She was the one that Shadow Jodie was her mentor in the other universe. But in this universe, obviously she doesn't know our Jodie. She's working for somebody else.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have a strong opinion about that.
Okay. Well, when we get into it, we can figure that out. And then drug dealer boyfriend, obviously his story only matters when it bumps up against Jodie's story.
Right.
Yeah. He only exists in Jodie's story.
And he may not be a point of view character. I mean, there's
I don't think he is a point of view character. Yeah.
I think Jodie is a point of view character. I think Shadow Jodie is a point of view character. I think AJ is a point of view character. I think Evil Billionaire is a point of view character. That may be it. I mean, we might go into Farfig Nugan's point of view for 3 pages while he dies, because that's cool. But and
the parents are really only in the story to show the divide, right, between the two universes.
So far, they're only there to do that. We'll see if there's anything else that they are useful for later. But certainly, they are a place for Jodie and Shadow Jodie to express their mutual doppelganger foil vibe. And they may be useful later on. The thing we don't know, and that we will need to figure out, is it's a little schmucky. We need to get a little schmucky and figure out how one stops a multidimensional appetite from destroying a planet. How do you make?
Well, I it's not fully formed.
You're ahead of me.
It's not fully formed, but I think it is a rewiring of what Evil Tech Billionaire is doing. Evil Tech Billionaire is like, I'm going to connect everybody to this thing and it will get them all high like I get high. And I think what Shadow Jodie comes through with is the knowledge that that's what Evil Tech Billionaire did in her universe that created the rapid escalation and ended her reality, or her version of it. And comes through going, we got to stop him from doing the thing, and if we can't stop him from doing the thing, we have to take over the thing, because in the same way that a little bit of the proteins from a virus can be used to make the vaccine.
Sure.
If she comes through with the idea, we're going to use this to vaccinate the world. This is if Evil Tech Billionaire has already set up, Starlink, right, to beam whatever down to people's brains to do this. If we can take over that, if we can use it as an inoculation thing instead, we can head this off, right?
As you say that, there's something interesting going on if the inoculated version is making people, instead of making people very aware of abstraction and their minds and the depth of mathematics and the ways in which dance of physics, Woolley masters, blah blah blah.
It's the pure intellect.
Instead of pure intellect, if they did it if they reversed polarity and
if you're going to reverse polarity, you got to run some tachyons through the deflector
run some
array,
tachyons, reverse tachyons through the warp coil, blah blah, and made people hyper aware of their physicality.
You know what would be interesting is if they don't know that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that is what winds up happening.
And that sense of, wow, that's interesting. I got to think about that.
Well, this is the comedy version of this, so we're definitely not going to do this. But the comedy version of this is like the inoculation factor has gone out. All the wars on Earth have ended because everybody's too busy fucking. Those guys in the foxhole, they aren't shooting at the other guys in the foxhole anymore. They're doing something else in there now.
Yeah. On the other hand, everybody's having a good time. I don't know. But no, the idea of focusing people very much on their own physicality and their own individuality. The universe that exists that ends at their skin. And becomes an individuating force instead of a unifying one. And that's the thing that makes us not yummy.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I also like the sort of, was it sort of Damocles hanging over your head of, this works as long as we stay inside the Starlink field. So we gotta be intellectual enough to keep the technology running. Yeah. Because if we don't, and the Starlink field collapses, this problem is still out there.
Yeah, we don't know, and maybe Cthulhu moves on, and maybe he doesn't, and maybe this is just who we are now.
Yeah, I love that conversation of once he's eaten everything here that there is to be eaten, does he move on? We're going to find that out the next time we send some astronauts up in a rocket. Do they lose their minds when they fly out of the next time somebody flies to the moon? Are they going to lose their mind?
Maybe.
We'll find out.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I like that we don't know. I like that we don't know. Does Cthulhu get tired? Once it's eaten everything there is to be eaten here, does it just move on to the next place? I like that, because then Cthulhu's not a balloon inflating. Cthulhu is fluid oozing through the cracks of reality,
or a fire,
right?
Or he's a fire, and he goes.
Or he's
past.
a fire. Once
you've
the
burned
fuel here
all
is
of
burned,
the fuel, maybe
then
you can regrow in a universe of ashes. Maybe not.
Right.
There's a lot.
Is this us answering Fermi's paradox again? We do love to write stories where we answer Fermi's paradox.
Yeah,
it's like, is this a natural thing that happens, and it is the what do they call that when you allow the fire to burn?
The controlled burn.
There's something. Yeah, is this just the controlled burn that the universe goes through? That periodically there's this controlled burn that takes out huge chunks of reality.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that one. That one's too big for me.
And I like Cthulhu not having a personality.
Yes,
I like it not being a being. I like it being a fact of the universe, a fact of the multiverse, a fact of the cosmos. Fact of the cosmos.
I like greater reality. I've been using greater reality because it kind of
Well, but I mean, Carl Sagan's definition of cosmos was every reality that is, was, or ever could be is the cosmos, right? So I think in that sense, cosmos is a good descriptor because it's everything, every possibility, every possible alternate, every greater reality fits inside the cosmos. If we're going by the Sagan definition, but
Sagan was good.
What did that guy fucking know? Carl Sagan. Thought you were such big stuff.
Yeah, Carl.
So anyway, I like that version. I agree with you. I think that's the lack of definitive answer there appeals to me.
Yep.
And anyone who's read The Expanse will know that not having definitive answers for every plot question is something I find very appealing. I like when some things just don't get answered. I like when some mysteries remain, and I like when some of those mysteries are filled with demons and horror. That, like, we closed the box, we think the demons are stuck in there. Are we ever going to open that box again? Right?
Well,
like the demons aren't gone; they're just in a box.
And the answer, when the answer is for this project in particular, when the answer is we're at a place where we can maintain for now, and that's really as good as it gets. That's kind of actually what people the happy ending. That's an ending. You don't want that.
Right. Right.
That's all right. Huh.
Yeah, was it. I don't think he's the first one to say this, but I read it in a book of essays by Mark Twain, where he said there are only two possible endings to a story, and that in the Victorian sense, the Victorians thought there were only two possible endings to the story. It was a marriage or a death. That was it. Like if your story was about romance, then it ended when somebody got married.
Because then it was over.
Because then it's over. Or if your story is about a single individual's life, then it ends when they die.
Because otherwise, there's more story. Yeah.
Right.
I think I'm thinking we're getting pretty close to the end of our arc for today. But
yeah.
What I want to do is write up these necessary scenes in no particular order, just so we have them.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to throw out there just to think about. I don't care.
Okay.
Putting it out there. I think we know the first chapter. I think we know the first.
We definitely know the first chapter.
We can also write the first chapter or a draft of the first chapter and see if that has anything.
Are you getting antsy?
Am I alive? Am I breathing?
I mean, if you feel like you just wanted to, because the thing that writing the first chapter will do,
Yeah.
I think, is it'll give us a sense of voice that we want to aim for.
And if I get it, and with the understanding that the first pass is the first pass, and it's entirely plausible that it may be wrong, but I don't know how to get it right without getting it wrong first.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I am tempted to give the just that first chapter that we know what it is a pass and see what we come up with.
Do we want to have a brief? I don't have a ton of time, but do we want to have a brief conversation? If you're going to do that, do we want to have a brief conversation about voice?
Sure.
I mean, do you have a voice in mind that you want to aim for? Do you have? Are we Are we doing the standard James S.A. Corey voice, or are we trying for something a little different, a little unique?
I think it's going to have a different voice just because it's in a different place and it has a different level of focus. This story is way closer into the skin than the Expanse was.
Yeah.
This is, especially that first chapter is much. I mean, it feels more kind of Stephen King. In that,
I agree.
That sort of very accessible, very present, and very emotionally centered. I mean, when I talk about Shadow Jody and showing up in the window and the weirdness of that day, and that first chapter is all about a portrait of somebody who is really cultivating a mundane existence, really holding on to a mundane in that way that when somebody has been to the Black Lodge, this is something my wife talks about.
It is the quiet joy of a life where you get up and you take a shower and you go to work and you see the people that you know and you make coffee for people and you exchange a few words with customers, and just the joy of, I have a life and this is what my life looks like and nothing terrible is happening right now. And
that's fucking awesome, and I want to hold on to that. And that's
awesome. And I want to keep this going.
Yeah.
I'm not waking up in a ditch. I didn't wake up in a ditch. I didn't wake up with a stranger on top of me. I
don't have any new tracks. I don't have to worry if I got a new disease last night. I think all of the shit, all the stupid shit I was doing before, I'm not doing right now, and that's a tremendous fucking victory. And what is this? What is this thing that has come and is throwing me off? What is this? What is this threat?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. The how dare you be a strangeness?
Yes.
In my perfectly mundane existence that I've worked really fucking hard to cultivate.
Yes. And and whatever whatever this is, it is a threat to homeostasis that I have fought for.
There is a in this early part, there's a monetary element to this, because one of the great insecurities of addiction is, your money's going to go to the wrong things. And so you're always behind the ball money-wise. You're always like, will I have enough money to pay my rent? How can I get enough money to pay my rent and still buy the drugs I want to buy? Right? Like there's this, to steal a phrase, there's an economic uncertainty that clouds everything that's happening in your life. And as a person who has been both very poor and not poor, the thing that I remember when I was super poor is getting an okay job and the feeling that looking at my life and going, if I just go to work every day this month, at the end of the month, I will be able to pay my rent. I will be able to pay my electric bill. I'll have a little money left over to put gas in my car and to buy food. And all I have to do is this very simple thing, and I will be able to meet my economic needs. And the incredible sense of relief
the high that comes from that. Yeah.
It's almost, if you've never been in that position, if you've never been broke to the point where you are like, I'm 1 minute from living on the street. If you've never been that level of broke, I don't think you ever understand the satisfaction and relief that comes from looking at your life and going, I'm going to be able to pay all my bills. I'm going to be able to pay all my bills. And I don't have to worry about it. if that is if that's Jodie's reality,
Yeah.
this
is where
she has cultivated this place. She's got an apartment she can afford. She drives her shitty Honda that she doesn't owe any money on, and her paycheck from Starbucks will pay all of her bills.
Yeah.
And just
that's fucking
the joy of that.
That is joyous. Yes. And
yes.
that is precious. And that's what the weird threatens.
Yes. How fucking dare you be weird in my carefully cultivated mundane life?
And what does it mean?
Yes.
What am I about to lose this again? Am I about to lose this again? Whatever this is this something that's going to lead to me not having this again? Am I going to go back to the dark place?
Yeah. Well, and a person who has climbed up out of the pit will fight very hard not to go back into the pit.
Yep.
And so we will understand why she's willing to fight so hard to preserve what she's got.
And we're going to get to see a bunch of her emotional reactions and understand what that was without having to go back and spend a bunch of torture porn moments.
No, and we don't need to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
I don't want to do that.
We get to skip all of that by just showing her reaction here.
I think showing her immediately go out on her first break and call her former sponsor.
And say...
And...
I'm a little shook. I'm a little shook. I'm a little shook. I'm a little shook.
Yeah. I think that scene tells us everything we need to know. I think the scene between the two of them on the phone with her going, some really weird shit just happened. Am I relapsing? Do I need to go to a hospital? Do I need to go to the doctor? What's happening right now? Yeah.
Let's not call 911 right now.
I think he's the one who goes, yeah, people see weird shit. It can be very unsettling. You have a lot of past trauma that can be brought up by seeing some weird shit. But
let's just breathe and ooh. And here's your foreshadowing. This is the one where he's saying, just breathe, be in your body. Just let this flow through.
Feel your lungs filling up. Feel them emptying.
Feel them emptying. Be where you are right now. Be with your body. Let it flow out of you. It's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And that's the little tiny bit at the beginning that talks about what happens at the end.
Yeah. You know what? And I there's a plot point that popped into my head as you were saying that.
Excellent.
That I really like.
Tell me.
What I really like is the reason Jodie doesn't go to AA anymore. Mm-hmm. One, she feels like she's fairly recovered, and two, she's quit smoking, and she can't be around those guys because they fucking smoke like chimneys.
Yep.
And so have her bring that up, like, he's like, do you want to go to a meeting? She's like, I'm trying to fucking quit smoking.
I'm not going there.
I'm dying for a cigarette right now. The last thing I need to do is go to one of those meetings where everybody's standing outside smoking. The first thing somebody's going to do is offer me a smoke, and I'm going to fucking take it, and I'm going to be right back on cigarettes again.
And so no, I'm not.
No, I am not. That's why I'm calling you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I also like that when she and Shadow Jodie and drug dealer ex-boyfriend are together, and he starts smoking in the motel room and sets her off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, no. He very innocently offers her one. And she's like, you're trying to fucking hook me again.
It's like, no.
He's like, dude, I'm not offering you heroin. I'm just a smoke, Yeah. Shadow Jodie smokes. Yeah, but she's an asshole.
You guys do it outside.
Yeah, you guys go outside.
Yeah. You really need to get in somebody's pants? Take her. I'm out. We look the same. Yeah, you won't know.
I like that. It's a nice character moment that she's because the reason that popped into my head is I actually worked with a guy who had been a meth addict and had gotten clean, and was telling me about how getting clean on meth, like you gain weight, right? Like you gain a bunch of weight after you get clean from meth, and so like he would run into his friends and like if they were super skinny and they're like, hey, I got clean, man. He's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You big liar. No, you didn't. You're too skinny to be clean. But the reason I bring it up is he told me that, so he got off meth and he gained a bunch of weight. And then he was like, at least I've stabilized now. Like I'm at this weight that I feel fairly comfortable. It's fairly stable. And then he quit smoking. He gained a bunch more weight. It was like, God damn it! Why does every time I get off of a harmful addictive substance do I have to pay for that by weight gain?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay, so I'm gonna take a swing.
oh, and then the other thing we could do is we can make Shadow Jody like skinnier than our Jody, and she can be like, yeah, it's because she still smokes.
Yeah. No, that's not a good thing. Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna do the list of what we think are necessary scenes, and I'll take a swing at the chapter one. We can take a look at that. We can talk about that next time.
All right. Wow. Okay.
It's not going to take. This is not going to take 18 months. We're not going to take 18 months getting through this. It's going to go faster than that.
Yeah, it will. Because we still gotta do 2 full rewrites of whatever we finish with. We still got to do editorial. Send it off to an editor and do editorial.
It's going to be faster than you think. It's going to go fast. All right. No, we'll do this again next week.